So yeah, frickin' NFLshop.com, man. They must I went through every team to see who was and wasn't
Hmm.
on sale, and it's hilarious.
All the scrub teams.
Yeah, well, it's a ton of them. I mean, it's a ton of them, but it's not any of like any team like the Raiders jerseys weren't
Mm.
on sale, and like the Steelers, Vikings, Packers, like all those
Dallas.
teams. Mhm, Dallas, fuck yeah, no.
Hmm.
All those teams that have loyal followings, and then all the teams that are in the playoffs, like the Browns jerseys weren't on sale.
Gotcha.
Yeah, none of the playoff teams were on sale except for the Bills.
I took a lease out on your heart. I took a lease out on your heart. Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun? Can I at least have fun?
Welcome back, everybody. We are Rough Draft Research. You are the audience, and together we are on a quest for Dynasty domination. And that's it. It's the end of the year.
That's it.
Congratulations to all the champions out there. I know we got one included right here. Took me down this week. Congrats. 1 point. 1 point on the
Yeah,
final few Aaron Jones carries. It was a tough day.
bittersweet,
That was a very tough day for me. It was awkward. But
yeah.
congratulations, my friend. I wouldn't have wanted to lose to anyone else. Um, but hopefully all the listeners out there, you had a good year. Hopefully you're already, since we're in a dynasty league, hopefully those GMs have gotten your leagues over to the next year. You can start trading and let's get really into it. This is the real time for dynasty leagues, but before we get into any rookies or any previews for 2024, we're gonna keep kind of on the review train a little bit. I'm gonna let Dan kind of take us down the road of what we're doing today. So yeah, just take it away from us for us.
You got it. So yeah, this week just doing we're looking at one player from the top 10 at each position,
Hmm.
and we kind of took our own little spin on an open-ended review of what we saw from these players. I think I'm aiming more for looking at like anomalies or hesitations and trying to learn how to, override my own bias and find these players that are kind of undervalued compared to where I think they should be.
Hmm.
Yeah, what were you looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I just was kind of going off surprises in the top 10, and I wanted to explain why, but specifically top 10 guys that were really, really successful during the championship 3 week stretch here. So I focused heavily on their scores from week 15 to 17, but it was mostly just like, okay, this guy I didn't expect to be in the top 10 or didn't expect to be maybe this high in the top 10. I just want to highlight why, or like maybe this is a reason he could have gotten there. But and then also looking at that championship point total.
Nice, dude. Well, shit, why don't you squeeze one out?
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'll start off. Let's just go. I'm just gonna go quarterback, like the top of the
Okay.
roster here. Um, so I had to fit a Packer in here somewhere, and I think it makes the most sense that we're gonna talk about Jordan Love for the quarterbacks because he was an incredible surprise. I mean, people were excited to see him. Nobody knew what we expected from him. He ended the season as the QB5 on the year. He's got 30 touchdowns against only 11 interceptions. And almost 4,000 passing yards. Would have set the Bears franchise record and all those marks. So that's pretty interesting. Um, and you try to see like, okay, well, what's got it done? And he doesn't have a dominating receiver that's helping him out. He's got no receiver over 1,000 yards. The highest is Jaden Reed with 680 something, something like that. So he's spreading the ball around to everybody. Nobody has over 70 receptions. He's got 29 touchdowns to first or second year players thrown. The first receiver he's had all season to have 100 yards was last week, Bo
Jeez,
Melton against the Vikings.
dude, Melton.
So It's hard. It's hard. He's done it with 9 game without his main weapons for most of the season as well. Christian Watson's been out 9 games. Luke Musgrave has missed 10 games. Aaron Jones has missed 10 games. And yet he just continues to produce. And I mean, obviously he has these stretches. He's a bit up and down. He's still a bit of a roller coaster, but he's got 4 touchdowns on the ground. He's had 8 weeks this season of over 20 points. So we're talking almost half the year. He's getting over 20 points for you, which usually is a quarterback with some rushing ability. And he's got a little bit of that. He's like sixth in rushing touchdowns for quarterbacks. There's like a group of them tied there at 4. Um, but man, like it's hard to figure out exactly what he's doing other than just playing the position at an elite level right now. Like he's hitting wide open receivers, he's making these confident throws, and he just seems like the type of guy that's gonna try to go get some more yards, go get some points. He's not scared to throw the ball. He's not scared to rip it into tight windows. And right now it's working out for him. I think Matt LaFleur and him really, really clicked in the middle of the season and figured out like where they're comfortable uh, with each other. And I think it's been working like gangbusters ever since because Love just seems like he's more comfortable. They were letting him rip. And it doesn't seem like he needs a number one receiver right at this moment to kind of make him fantasy viable. Now, going down the road, it would be amazing to have like a true alpha there. But as of right now, like it seems like whoever they throw in with him, I mean, like I'm saying, you got Bo Melton coming in, you got Dontavian Wicks coming in and looking like a superstar, you got Malik Heath coming in and making plays. All these guys just coming out of nowhere, super, super young, and you're going to see them grow up with Jordan Love. I mean, Watson, Reed, Wicks, Melton, I'm sure he's going to get a spot on the roster now since he was activated from the practice squad going into the Minnesota game. He's probably going to, all those guys are young and on their rookie deals. Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave, too. All these guys are going to be young, so they're growing with Love. And I think you're going to have like a perennial top 10 guy here, or like maybe top 12, up or down years here or there. But like, I don't know, man. I was impressed with the way he played this season. I'm a bit biased, obviously, but I don't know. Tell me I'm wrong. I think he looked good. I think he looks like he knows what he's doing, and now we can roll into next year. One more season down, one more year of confidence laid onto the foundation.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it, man. The ability to have the success in almost universal, setup. It didn't matter, who was on the field with him. He did his job and he executed
Hmm.
well, and he made people who haven't had much experience extremely successful, even in spot starts like Bo Melton, man.
Hmm.
So, yeah, you can't argue with that. It's just it's so funny. It's so funny because I don't know. I'm looking at all this like looking at people that are being doubted and how they're successful and the reason they're being doubted. And for him, he sat behind Aaron Rodgers and he had that one rough game and
Hmm.
like nobody knows what's going on and Devontae Adams isn't there anymore. And but like I don't know, the system works. This coaching staff knows what they're doing and they groomed him under, one of the best quarterbacks in our era. And
Hmm.
so for him to go out there and be successful, it's still extremely surprising. But I mean, it makes sense if you think
Hmm.
about like succession and just like
Yeah.
success in general.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're so damn surprised about it.
Right. I mean, the big knock on Jordan Love coming out of the draft was that he was a raw prospect that needed time to be developed and to be reined in, basically. And now he gets 3 years to do that, and everybody just immediately wanted to say he wasn't going to be anything. And then when he had that rough stretch, me included, I'm not saying like, oh, I knew before everybody else. I was down on him in that rough stretch
Oh
towards the middle
yeah.
of the year too. So but yeah, it seems like people just wanted to automatically say he was going to be bad, and it took some time, but we're here, and he looks like the guy going forward. And then going back to the championshipness of it all, weeks 15 to 17, he was really good. He scored almost 70 total points, 69.9, 17 and a half in week 15, 24 week 16, and 28.4 in week 17, that championship weekend. So was awesome for you. If you had Jordan Love, you're probably really happy with him throughout the playoffs. So hopefully he makes it into the real playoffs. Got a big game up on Sunday, but hell of a season for Jordan Love in his first year for fantasy.
Yeah, man, hats off to him. Did you see him and Aaron Jones chugging that sparkling apple cider?
Yeah.
Yeah, that shit's so good. But cool, man. Well, yeah, I really enjoyed that. I'll get into my quarterback,
All right.
and yeah, I know we're doing this episode about top 10 at each position, but I'm going to
Mhm.
go ahead and just start my quarterback conversation by pointing out the top 12 quarterbacks. And I know it sounds outrageous, but in our scoring and for the belt, there was actually only 8 tenths of a point between the QB 10 and the QB 12.
Oh wow.
So I'm gonna throw in Tua and Russell Wilson into the conversation, are 11 and 12. And when you get those top 12 in the conversation, and you look at the top 13 teams in the NFL in touchdown percentage of passes thrown, all 12 of the top 12, all of the top 12 fantasy quarterbacks, their teams are on that list. The only
Hmm.
team in the top 13 that didn't have a top 12 quarterback was the Vikings. And that makes sense because, they've had several quarterbacks. So it's hard for one person to translate that into fantasy success. So um, I just think it makes sense, to be successful. You need to have the efficiency in the
Hmm.
touchdown game. And so that's why I'm bringing up the name Baker Mayfield, man. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, incredible. He had 5.2% TD rate, which is that's pretty incredible. So you got to give him some credit. Right now, he's the quarterback eight-ish, depending on like how you handle sacks and interception scoring. But yeah, he's definitely firmly in the top 10 and came into the year as the ADP quarterback 32.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a
Wow.
that's a hard sell. Um, let's see. I think we all remember being skeptical that Kyle Trask might contend for that starting role.
Hmm.
Like that's kind of funny because you look at it now, and Kyle Trask and Chris Godwin have a tie for second most pass attempts of the season with one each.
Nice.
So all but two of the passes this year have been thrown by Baker Mayfield. So he got the job and he's made it work pretty well. Um, yeah, he's surprisingly leading the Bucks to an 8-8 season, and I don't know. I think a lot of us thought it was an obvious tank job and gave zero hope to
Hmm.
anybody on Tampa Bay. Kind of shaky, worrying about what was going to happen without Brady around. So
Hmm.
um, I think it's kind of weird to compare Brady and Baker, but if you look at it, man, that 5.2% TD rate is it's a lot better than what Brady was doing last year. He had 3.4 percent.
Wow.
So and he's got 28 TDs this year through 16 games, and Brady was at 25 last year, and that was with like 733 pass attempts. Baker's more in the 500 range. So I don't know, man. I think what Baker's done is be successful, be efficient, and lead the offense as good as a 45-year-old did last year. So, it's hard to make that comparison. But the real reason that he's had his success is because he's got, Chris Godwin and,
Hmm.
and Mike Evans on the squad. And then this team it favors passing to the running back. And so it just kind of makes it easy, even without like the elite O line that they've been known for him to be successful. And in 2022, there were five teams that had two top 20 wide receivers:
Hmm.
Tampa Bay, Seattle, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, and Miami. And if you think about the situations, like all those quarterbacks were highly desired, except for
Hmm.
Gino, because we didn't know. Thought it
Hmm.
might be an anomaly. Who knows? But I don't know, man. Basically, I'm looking for I'm looking for lessons from 2020 three that will help me in 2024. And as far as the Baker story goes, it's you don't have to really think too much about an individual player if they're already in a successful situation. You know what I mean? They can have the success of their organization, even if it's not what they're known for. If all the parts are there, why can't someone slot in and have just as much success as a previous guy? You know, so I'm
Yeah,
trying not to overthink it.
yeah, and I think it speaks hugely to these guys that we've seen be good. Baker going like he had some good stretches in Cleveland and then even had a couple good games with the Rams. You surround them with premium weapons, like this is what you can get. Like it's not going to happen every time, but I think it's worth looking into because people we saw Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and all these guys slip in the draft, Rashad White, and they all ended up being really, really top tier fantasy players for you. Maybe Godwin to a lesser extent, but he had boom weeks. So you've got situations in the NFL that are similar to that, that have great skill positions that need a quarterback. You look at Atlanta or the Commanders or the Jets or somebody like that. You bring in a quarterback who's even competent, but not afraid to just whip it in there and you're going to start producing. So it could be a guy time to get these guys cheaper when you know a quarterback with some question marks is coming in, but a guy that can actually get people the ball when he's surrounded by premium talent. It'd be awesome. You know, they're talking about trading Justin Fields right now, and he's not the greatest quarterback in the world necessarily, but let's put him in Atlanta and see if he rips it to Drake London and Kyle Pitts with all the throws that he throws to Komet. You know what I mean? So I'm with you. I think it's a good thing to track these like vets who still have something left to give. We don't know if Baker's going to go much going forward. It sounds like he's going to be the guy next year, but looking into these vets to revitalize or even like not take any hit in the case of someone like Mike Evans, where we thought, oh, maybe he's going to go from being a top tier fantasy wide receiver to less than, but he wasn't. He was awesome. So I think it's smart to pay attention to this and see like these quarterbacks that are surrounded by really premium weapons and maybe give them more of a benefit of the doubt than some other people would have.
Yeah,
Uh,
man. I think as we go through this episode, we're probably going to touch on other teams that were kind of left for dead, that were able to just electrify some things. But so
yeah.
maybe just don't anticipate a complete drop off, you know? Like
Hmm.
let us all imagine every NFL
Hmm.
team as Derrick Henry, and
There you
it may
go.
not be as awesome as it once was, but it's not going from top tier to bottom
The
shelf
shit. Yeah.
overnight. Yeah.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
yeah.
Um, all right, well, let's get into the running backs real quick. We had a team who was awesome, and then they were pretty injured last year and were pretty bad last year. And a lot of people had them projected to be pretty bad this year, but they're locked into the playoffs now. And that team is the Rams. And I am going to talk about Kyron Williams, who had an amazing season. And this was an interesting thing. Okay, so he's got 1,000 yards on the ground, 12 touchdowns on the ground, 200 yards through the air, and 3 touchdowns through the air. So 15 total touchdowns, almost 1,400 all-purpose yards. And this was a guy who we both liked coming out of the draft because of his tape. And then he came out and he ran a 4.65. He got a 10th percentile speed score, a 22nd percentile burst score. And we said, get out of here, Kyron. We ain't friends no more.
Not
And
today, Kyron.
and it looked great. His rookie year, he barely saw the field. But this year he's been amazing. And it was one of those things like, why? Okay, so how is this guy who in theory has terrible measurables cooking this hard? And so I wanted to look, is it the offensive line? Who knows? First of all, he missed 4 weeks and was still the RB5. So that's just crazy. He on an average per game, he was averaging almost 22 points. That would have made him the RB2 on the year, just for reference. He was PFF's second graded, highest graded runner through qualified runners, but he was behind the fifth highest graded pass block or run blocking offensive line. So I wanted to look into that. And so when I went on to Pro Football Reference here, And Kyron Williams was fifth in yards before contact per attempt. So he was getting lots of running room out in front of him. And so you might think, okay, well, maybe that's why. He was just getting tons of room out in front of him, yada, yada, yada. Well, he was also fifth in yards after contact per attempt. So it wasn't just the line. The line was helping him out tremendously by giving him such a great starting runway, but he was more than capable of getting extra yardage after contact. He was tied for sixth in the league with 51 forced missed tackles on the ground. That's right around where Bijan was. And again, he missed 4 games. So we're talking about a guy who, what we liked on tape about him was the vision, the decision making, the ability to hit the hole and get out of there. And he's using that still. Like it's more of an experiment on, and we've said this, we've been doing this for 3 years now, and I've said this quite a bit, and maybe we'll finally listen to it this year. But like as much as the measurables are important and they can help, like don't be out on a guy that you liked on tape just because of measurables. You know what I mean? Because there's something about Kyron Williams' ability to run that got him to where he is and helped you win a championship this year. In weeks 15 to 17, Kyron Williams totaled 71 points, 24 and a half week 15, 16.4 in week 16, and 30.1 in week 17. Just completely a game changer for you. He was a league winner this year if you were able to grab him off the waivers early enough, or if you had him in a dynasty roster. And it just speaks to it, man. Like these guys that maybe don't pop year one, just hang on to them because you never know what's going to happen. And it was fun to watch. And you think, oh man, it's all touchdowns. He had 15 touchdowns. No, he had 1,400 all-purpose yards. So I don't know, man. Like he came out of nowhere, but it's a lesson in tape dog and tape dog watching and staying in the tape and not letting the combine scores scare you away.
Oh yeah, and also don't let your commissioner have tight rosters in your dynasty league to where you have to cut Kyron Williams before the season even starts. Um, 'Cause that's what happened to me, and I am that commissioner, and I did win that league anyway.
Yeah,
Damn, I would have
true,
steamrolled if I had Kyron.
true.
But yeah, man. I mean, that was kind of a team that I was kind of making the trying to make the parallel with the Tampa Bay, like just kind
Hmm.
of popular opinion counted them out and look at like Puka Nakoa and freaking Kyron Williams.
Hmm.
Like what the hell?
And
This is
Stafford.
amazing. And so,
Stafford just
yes,
coming back and playing like
I
the
mean, it was technically, I mean, you'd
yeah.
have to give him pretty much,
Hmm.
the lion's share of the credit
Yeah, I
with a
mean,
little McVay mixed in there.
let's talk about Stafford just real quickly. I mean, he's produced arguably the greatest wide receiver season of all time in Calvin Johnson in like
Oh
2013.
yeah.
He also did it with Cooper Kupp in 2020. And now he's produced arguably the greatest rookie receiver campaign that we've ever seen in a fifth round rookie in Puka Nakua. So Stafford continues to be somewhat disrespected somehow for how just his ability to create opportunities for wide receivers and make them look incredible.
Yeah. That's cool. He I think he's taken it in stride with that
No, no.
disrespect.
Yeah, it's fine. And that's no disrespect to Puka or anything either. It's not like
Oh yeah, of course
Stafford's
not.
making him, and that's not what I'm trying to say, but
For
it's
sure.
just for a guy to play with three different guys and lead them all to crazy, crazy, fantastic seasons like that, you know, he deserves a little credit. But
Yeah,
anyway, who you
absolutely.
got for a running back?
Oh man. Well, I've got this one. I got Brees Hall.
Bruce.
Brees Hall. So, yeah, this one's kind of wild for me. For everyone, I think it was wild. I don't think anyone could have ever predicted the biggest quarterback move of the offseason, leading to a single pass attempt. Yeah. So, and in that situation, things can spiral out and get a little disappointing. And yeah, it went that direction with the Jets. Um, yeah, so I guess the question is, how in the world is it possible to have the second lowest PFF graded offense, passing, pass blocking, receiving, running, and the fifth lowest offensive line pass blocking grades. All of these things are true and still produce the RB4 on the season. Yeah, how is it possible? Was he just grinding it out, pushing the pile every play, making it happen? No, no, he wasn't. He was given the run grade of 75 by PFF, which is about 30th amongst like productive backs. And he only had 39 missed tackles forced, which is 15th. And he was outside the top 20 in total rushing yards, 4.4 per average.
Wow.
You know, what do you know, he didn't hit 1,000 yards. So how is this happening? Well, he just got them blow up runs, man. He just blew it all up. His second in the league in percentage of yards on runs over 15 yards with 43.2%. And I guess we probably all know that Devon A. Chain led that category.
Mhm.
But yeah, nearly 350 of his 800 yards were on runs that were over 15 yards. So that's pretty impressive. I think that we understand his open field abilities are
Mhm.
off the charts and out of this world. And O line and the defense knowing 100% you're the only thing going on. Doesn't matter when you get a guy one on one in the open field. So yeah, the missed tackles force weren't necessarily there, but the break off runs were 100% there.
Mhm.
But that's not it, man. I mean, that's not the whole story. Okay. We got to talk about PPR and how
Mhm.
that's pretty much all we're talking about these days. And and yeah, what's up with Brees Hall? In the first 8 games of the year, so weeks 1 through 9, with the bye in there, Brees had 28 targets, and so that's fewer than Antonio Gibson through the first half of the year for him, and it's actually tied for 15th amongst all running backs in those weeks. So that's not very exciting, right?
Mhm.
I mean, we hoped for more. But then if you look at the next 8 weeks, weeks 10 through 17, he's like embarrassingly just front runner, putting guys way behind him by getting 62 targets in those 8 weeks. And so that's,
Mhm.
nearly 8 targets per game.
Mhm.
There's a 16 target game in there in week 16. There's 3 9 target games over that span. And he managed somehow to finish the year as the number one targeted pass catching running back. So
Wow.
that's a hell of a turnaround. And he actually had 31 missed tackles forced as a pass catcher, which is 12 more than the next guy. Like
Mhm.
very incredible after the catch abilities. So that's how he happened, man. So I gotta say, what does it look like when you have a more successful offense around this guy? Kind of clear RB1 candidate.
Mhm.
So yeah, hats off to Brees Hall and hats off to Danny. You know what I mean? Hats off to Danny. So
You'll be fine. Bijan will be
nah,
alive when Arthur Smith is gone. We'll be fine. But you're talking about Brees. I mean, I was talking about Kyron Williams having 1,400 yards. Brees Hall has almost 1,400 all-purpose yards, and he
oh yeah,
doesn't have 1,000 yards rushing. So
nope,
that just speaks to how much he's getting through the air. I mean, 579 yards on through the air this season. It's incredible. I mean, coming out of the draft, we knew Brees was a complete running back, and we liked him a lot. I'm a bit concerned that maybe he doesn't get the target load if the offense is working better, because presumably that means you feeding Garrett Wilson, you probably have a number two, but he's still an RB1 regardless. Like he's going to be
oh
in the
yeah,
top 10 next year, probably perennial top 10 player here. I mean, you're looking at like you're saying, the breakaway percentage. He's a threat to take anything to the house, and with that ability to do that through the ground or the air yeah, he's going to be great for a long time, and it's going to be hard if we've seen him be the RB4 on an offense that was this anemic all season. Like you're saying, imagine what he's going to do on a good one. So I don't think there's going to be any issues with the team around him slowing him down, at least
That's
not right
right.
now.
Just Israel Abandoned, baby.
Yeah, there you go.
Keep your rear views
All right.
clean.
Let's get into the wide receivers now. And what an unbelievable year for receivers. According to PFF, there are 7 wide receivers that have a 90 or above for their PFF grade, which is
Oh,
a massive amount because 90 is like truly, truly elite. It's not like, oh, 100 is the no. Like 90 for PFF is crazy, crazy good. So CeeDee Lamb is who we're going to talk about. He finished with a PFF grade of 91.1. He was the wide receiver 3. He finished points wise in PPR leagues as the wide receiver 1. He caught Tyreek Hill. It was amazing. Obviously, Hill sat out that game, that one game, but then when he came back, just hasn't popped yet. But if you're asking like what it was for CD, it was him for the second year in a row, truly being relied on as the guy, like the guy, the one true guy in Dallas. And he delivered. He delivered more than he possibly ever could have. 1,600 all-purpose yards, or over 1,600 all-purpose yards, 10 touchdowns through the air, 2 on the ground as well. Um, he had 7 games where he had over 25 points and 2 where he scored more than 40 in a game. He was only averaging zero point 0.7 less points than Tyreek Hill at the end of the year. So
wow.
just absolutely like it's not like, oh, he only made up ground because Tyreek Hill sat and was bad. No, like he was averaging very close to what he was. And when I'm saying like he was the true guy, he led the team, or first of all, he led the league in targets and receptions, which both ended up being Cowboys. Well, I mean, the receptions ended up being Cowboys' reception record, and he broke the yardage record as well. But here's what it is: until they bring in a number 2 that's gonna demand more targets. I mean, Brandon Cooks had a good year, but it wasn't crazy. He had CD Lamb had 100 more targets than Brandon Cooks,
Gosh.
almost 100 more targets. So it was like 98, 99, something crazy like that. That was the next closest wide receiver. Now, Jake Ferguson had more and was closer, but he's a tight end, so I didn't really count it. But the next closest wide receiver was 100 targets more away from CeeDee Lamb. And it's fine when he's going to produce like this. Like when everybody knows you're going to throw the ball to CeeDee Lamb and you can't stop it, it reminds you of what Cooper Kupp did in 2020, what Devontae Adams has been doing, what Stephon Diggs does until weeks like 12 to 17.
Ugh,
What all these
gross,
guys,
dude.
these true elite, undeniable gods at receiver do. And that's CeeDee Lamb is there. Like he is that guy. Like he has claimed it. It took him a little while, a little longer to get started than some of these other wide receivers we've seen pop, like a la Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, something like that. But in year 4, CeeDee Lamb has taken over, and I don't see it changing. And he's only 24 years old. So I think we've got at least 6 more seasons of him being truly, truly dominant.
At least 6 more seasons. I like that. I like the sounds of that. Yeah, man, he's got a good bed of coals. That fire's going to burn a lot hotter than those guys that come out the gate, just getting it going. So, CD Lamb, dude, what a fucking absolute badass.
Oh, and one of those 40 points he dropped was in the championship weekend, just in case. Didn't help me win.
Oh,
Didn't help me win, but it helped a lot of people win, I'm sure. Totaled 84 points over the 3 weeks of fantasy championships. Just unbelievable.
I can't believe I beat you, even though you
Y-
had CD Lamb.
Yeah, me too. I was upset.
Beautiful. And I had Jerome Ford on the bench.
Hmm.
Come on.
I was good. I felt good going into Sunday.
Yeah, I was, man, yeah, it doesn't matter. I didn't get to watch the game Saturday night, out with the wife for her birthday, and I like was just devastated,
Mm.
staring at That I had Shimmy in the third place match. The
Mm,
roasted had him as well and Dak, and I was like, okay, well that one didn't fare
this
as
was a
well
bad
as
day.
yeah, man. I was able to creep up on you, but that one got away from me. But man, I think what you're saying is everything I want to say about a much older
Mm,
wide receiver in Keenan Allen,
mm,
uh, 31 and a half years old. Not sure how much longer he's going to be getting it done. But this year he's got 150 targets. That's incredible considering, especially that he only played 13 games.
hmm.
So for him to be, in the top five in targets and in the top 10 amongst wide receivers. It's kind of impressive, man. I don't think it goes very much longer. He doesn't have another 6 seasons of it. But for me, this is about, trying to take something away from this year and apply it to the future. And that is volume is king. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? We're talking about a Chargers offense that in 2020 was fifth in pass attempts.
Wow.
In 2021, they were third in pass attempts. 2022, they were second. And this year, they are sixth. I assume if Herbert or maybe more wide receivers had been healthy, they'd still be in the top five. So you got to pay respect to that. And Keenan Allen in 2020 got 24% of the target share.
Hmm.
And in 2021, he got 23% of the target share. And this year, he's actually at 26% of the target share because the rest of the team hasn't been healthy. Last year, he only got 13%, but he missed a lot of time. But still, he's missing time and still claiming a quarter of the team's passing production.
Wow.
And he has historically done that on a team that has historically been a high volume offense. I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know what to say except like how are we not all just chasing after players like this? I know you don't want to, pay too much of a premium for a player at this age that may be at the end of their career. But man, sometimes you got to make moves for now. You can't
Hmm.
just be keep planning for 2, 3 years out because you chase that 2, 3 years forever, man, and you
Yeah.
never stop and claim the victories that are upon you. So I just think it's amazing, man. He only had 12 red zone targets this year. It's only got 5 red zone touchdowns, only 7 touchdowns on the year, and these numbers aren't too bad, but there's 11 wide receivers with more touchdowns than him, and he's purely just I don't know, purely just catching balls and scoring PPR points. Austin Eckler was running back one last year, running back two the previous year. He's RB 25 right now. Um, Herbert's not doing that great, even when he was on the field. Obviously, we know the situation with the rest of the wide receiver core, including, a rookie,
Mm.
Quentin Johnston, not getting it done. So
Outscored
just to,
Stefan Diggs from weeks 15 to 17 or whatever, just for the record.
yeah, so did yeah, so did my dog. He caught a few things I threw his way.
Gotcha.
Man, no, Beezus is the best wide receiver. Number one. Stefan's number two. Um, but I don't know. You got to respect the volume. So
Mm.
that's all I got to say about Keenan. We know
Yeah,
the
I
story
mean,
with him.
and Keenan fits into like the Devontae, the Amari Cooper, the Mike Evans type player where it's like these guys just do it. Like it doesn't matter. Every year you can expect them to fall off because they don't have a quarterback, but they're just too good. They're too good to be bad, basically. And Keenan Allen hasn't gotten the respect that maybe he deserves and maybe he should be in that upper echelon more often, at least discussion wise. And you're right. I don't know how much longer he's got. He's older. Injuries have been an issue for him. And then also huge salary cap savings that the Chargers can have if they move on.
Sure.
Now, it'd be weird to move on, but maybe they're doing a full total rebuild outside of Herbert. But as far as this year, I mean, like you're saying, getting these vets, if you, as long as you're not overpaying to do it, like it's usually going to work out. Because, I mean, what did the guy? He didn't end up winning the championship and for the belt, but Clint gave up what, like a first, like a late first for Keenan Allen, and ended up being the wide receiver 6 on the year, and would have been better than that had he not got hurt. So like that's worth it. A late first for a guy that ends up being a top 10 wide receiver for you, especially if you win a championship. Now, if you don't, that ends up sucking, but that's kind of just luck. Whereas they would have been smart. Like there were people pounding the table before the year saying Keenan Allen is gonna have a monster year, and then he went and did it. So I obviously people pound the table for everybody before the season, but these
Mm.
guys that have been consistently good, like I don't know, it's worth taking a chance on them for the right price because you can get returns just like this.
Yeah, yeah. Especially this team that's
Hmm.
just struggled so hard.
Yeah,
They're like, if they're gonna feed the one player that's always been
that's always been good.
reliable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a back the dump truck of targets up to Keenan Allen's driveway, man. Let's
Hell yeah.
go.
All right. Well, let's close it out with some tight end talk. And I'm going to go a little quick on this one because I've been bringing him up a lot. Um, I'm going to talk about Trey McBride again because I'm telling you, do not sell your Trey McBride stock. I don't know if you're thinking about it or if you've ever considered it, but don't do it. My man, all right, what led to Trey McBride being a top 10 tight end? This one, unlike a lot of the other ones, has a very clear and very easy answer. It was Zach Ertz leaving. Zach Ertz getting hurt, unfortunately, and then leaving afterward was the obvious factor because since week 8 to now, Trey McBride is averaging 15.2 points per game. That would make him the tight end 1 on the year above everybody since week 8. So since Zach Ertz got hurt, he ended with 100 targets, and we're not over. It's week 18, but obviously fantasy ends week 17. He had 21 targets by week 8. 21. That means for the rest of the year, he got 79 targets for over those last 8 games.
Damn,
And you know
dude,
what
him
the
and Brees.
crazy thing is? He only had 2 touchdowns. Only 2 touchdowns. Dog,
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
do not sell Trey McBride. It is not fictitious. It is not a mirage. He is going to be a dominant tight end in this league. A bad Cardinals team was making him a top 10 tight end, and he was producing at a very, very high level. And I don't see any way where they go into next year and don't feed him. He's going to be one of the main consistent guys coming in. We don't know if Hollywood Brown is going to be back or what the situation is with there. But he's going to be one of the most consistent producers on that team coming back into 2024. And I don't see any reason his role doesn't expand, especially having those first 8 weeks of the season where he is the top guy. Now, am I saying he's for sure going to lap the tight end market? I don't know. Sam Laporta looks awful fucking good. And then we still have all these other guys. But Trey McBride, even during championship weekend, only was outscored by 2 tight ends. And that was David Njoku
Yeah, boy.
and Sam Laporta.
Yes, sir.
Everybody, and it's not like Trey McBride had a crazy fantasy championship weekend. He only scored 40 total points, but 20 week 15, 9 week 16, and 11 in week 17, which for a tight end, that's fine. Like, so, or the 20 is great, but I don't know, man. Like, I just don't let the mull and the longness of the offseason kind of lull you to sleep thinking about Trey McBride. He is going to pop up next year and he's going to be awesome. And I'm just telling you right now, hang on to him.
Wish you'd told me last year. You know, he's on your squad because I let him walk. But
I'll take it.
yeah, I'm taking echoes of Isaiah Likely from you. You know what I mean? I sold him at an extremely low price when Mark Andrews got hurt because I needed some picks. I didn't have any picks, and now I'm like, you know what, man? Even if he's number 3 on my team, it's still nice to have him there.
Yeah.
And if you are going to sell them, wait because the value's going up.
Yep.
I mean,
Exactly.
that's the real story. Um, But speaking of guys who now the value is not really, I don't think it's going up, but I want to talk about my long running love hate tight end Cole Kmet,
Yeah.
who I drafted as a rookie in the
Mm.
third round of a rookie draft. So I've been through some stuff with him, some very rough first 2 years. But now, I mean, we're looking at this guy's 2 years in a row as the tight end seven, and it's clear that he has value. The Bears team produced the 23rd ranked total fantasy points by a football team. A fun stat that I'm recently dipping my toe into. And so we think 23rd, probably not that great. But yeah, for a tight end, he managed to make it happen.
Mm.
Um, there's only one tight end that has more touchdowns than him this year. That's Sam Laporta. And actually, last year there were only two tight ends, Travis Kelce and George Kittle, that had more touchdowns than Cole
Wow.
Kmet. Um, so yeah, he clearly has a role. But unlike last year, Kmet jumped into the top 10 amongst tight ends in targets, receptions, and yards. He was not top 10 in any of those categories last year.
Wow.
So he's on the up.
Mm.
Um, yeah, yeah, I like him. So long story short, he's targeted in the red zone 13 times. So there's only five tight ends better than that this year.
Hmm.
Last year, he was outside the top 10 in tight end red zone targets, even though he had 10, but not quite as good against the competition as he is this year. So I'll say, while he has returned his numerical ranking amongst tight ends to last year, he's actually made some really good strides as a player. And I think he's a fairly established fantasy football asset.
Hmm.
And the thing that I really like is that he scored 40 points more than he did last
Nice.
year through
Hmm.
only 16 weeks. So, tight end seven, but really, 40 more points. And another thing that I like is that he returned his command for red zone targets at 40%, same
Mm.
as it was
Wow.
last year. And
Nice.
that's with the addition of DJ Moore onto the
Hmm.
team. So to be able to defend that role when you have an alpha wide receiver come along, I think it's pretty amazing. So um, I'm into it. Let's see. He's amongst the top three tight ends with over 25 targets in catch rate, with 83.3. So
Wow.
that's pretty impressive, and only one drop on the year. So it's easy to understand why Fields likes him. You know what I mean? He loved him in the red zone. We talked about it a little bit this offseason, and it's good to see that hasn't changed. We also know how Chicago, the team, feels about him
Hmm.
after giving him a 4 year, $50 million extension last summer. Um, so yeah, I like it, man. His ADP coming in was tight end 13, so he's definitely improved on that. And his keep trade cut value right now is tight end 11, and he is only 24. So
Nice. That's
I think
really
he's
young.
heating up to have a sustainable career. But I have to say, keep trade cut and all this research has tainted my message today.
Oh.
Yes, yes. Another 24-year-old tight end, which has a nearly identical keep trade cut value as Cole Kmet, is Jake Ferguson.
Mm.
So I gotta mention this guy because yeah, Cole Kmet had 13 red zone targets. Jake Ferguson had 22. He was in the top five amongst all pass catchers in the NFL in red zone targets.
Been having a good
Um,
year.
yeah, and you brought him up earlier saying some pretty nice things about how he's the only person within 100 targets of CeeDee Lamb on the Dallas Cowboys. So he's obviously getting the utilization there. So if I had to choose between Cole Kmet and Jake Ferguson, I'd probably go in the Ferguson route. Um, but yeah, what I learned just kind of looking at this is trust the red zone numbers. I think they might get overlooked a little bit
Hmm.
when you're looking at all the rookies and all the numbers and the whatever your
Hmm.
PPRs and your things. Um, Yeah, look at that red zone, man, because those touchdowns are what keep people alive. That's what kept Mike Evans as a baller this year, and it can make anybody's season that much better. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, I'm with you. It seems like anytime they get in the red zone, it seems like Fields is looking Komet's way at some point, and you need to take advantage of that. Now, the downside is all the rumors about the Bears moving on from Fields, and if they
Well,
reset and all that stuff.
mm,
Granted, if they reset, they're getting one of these top Drake
mm,
Mayer, Caleb Williams, and blah 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 blah. So you could be in for a bit of a question mark season with Komet. Just he's not moving, he's not going anywhere. But the quarterback situation might be in flux. I still think you trade back a few spots, you go get Marvin Harrison, you pair him with DJ Moore and Komet and just let Fields go. But they may not do that. But that even then, you'd be almost maybe you're even more excited if you have Caleb Williams throwing to Cole Komet instead of Justin Fields. Um, so that's the only worry there. But as long as Justin Fields is in the room, Komet is going to be a productive fantasy tight end. Like he may have frustrating weeks where he gets 0 points. It seems like he does that every year. But other than that, yeah, I'm with you. Like he's been consistent. He's maybe not like an X factor wow guy, but doesn't need to be. As long as he's there to catch the ball, one drop on the year, second in touchdowns, like you said, like you can't argue with those kind of numbers.
yeah, man, I love it. We'll commit.
Well,
That's
all
it.
right. There has been our top 10 teardown for you. We will be hitting you back next week. Both of us had a little bit going on, some sickness in the family over there. So hopefully that's all cleared up for you. I've had just a little bit of busy and my back issue. So not the most coming this way for you next week, but we will hit you back next week hard and sprinting. We are heading into our time of the year, the off season and the rookies. And we're going to get into our March Madness bracket sooner rather than later. It's all coming up. So please, please, please hang with us. We know the season being over is going to be a downer, but if you spend time with us, it'll probably be a lot more fun. So until then, we've been Rough Draft Research. You've been the audience, and we'll see you next time.
Hell yeah, the off season is our on season, baby.
I took a lease out on your heart.